Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. To counter an unemployment rate that has hovered at around 20% for some years now, the government of Botswana has devised several strategies to get its predominantly youthful population off the streets. One of the most publicized interventions is the country's decision to allocate 120 million pula each year towards the funding of youth businesses through the Youth Development Fund, or YDF. As commendable an effort as this is, given that there are little to no examples that even compare to the YDF on the African continent set aside for the youth, it is not one without its challenges. Starting up a business is hard work, and even the most seasoned experience failure. Given that the fund is equal parts grant and loan, if a high number of financed companies are unable to repay money meant for the country's development, questions from all corners of the country are bound to arise. We were very happy, therefore, to witness a stellar example of a public-private partnership recently, where First National Bank of Botswana forged a partnership with the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Sport and Culture Development to shore up the success rate of this very important program. To improve fledgling entrepreneurs' chances for success, this agreement aims to improve their access to lending, market access, coaching and much more. To give us the details on this partnership were FNB CEO Stephen Bogatsu, the Permanent Secretary at MySec Kahora Mokate, and FNB Head of Business Banking Petrus Sibina.
We identified a number of factors that were very important in order to ensure that the youth businesses succeed. The first need or gap that we identified was the gap around financial inclusion for youth businesses. And financial inclusion is not only about granting them facilities, loans. It's about granting them or assisting them with all other products that will ensure that their businesses succeed, such as transactional banking, such as giving them insurance products, giving them lending products, as well as assisting them with some sort of investment products. That was the biggest thing or the biggest gap that we identified from a banking perspective.
FNB has actually come up with a bundled set of products just to help the youth entrepreneurs optimize the banking experiences, as well as to help them reduce their cost of banking. These are products that exist within the bank in isolation, but they've never really been bundled into such a product as a product solution, what I would call a bank in a box type of thing.
We have several programs that we will run to ensure implementation of the MOU. One of the major programs that we run is the Youth Business Expo. And at the expo, there are seminars that are run, and the bank will be one of the key anchors for some of those seminars, and young people will benefit from that. But other than that, we also have a program where we'll be running, at least initially on a quarterly basis, seminars that will also bring young people together from all walks of life who are into entrepreneurship to benefit from this. And of course, young people who benefit from the funding of the ministry will be put through some skills or capacity building at in the initial stage, pre-funding and post-funding.
The second thing that we identified was, despite the funding that has been availed to many businesses, they actually still fail. And we realized that some of the businesses fail because the young people running the businesses are not taken through a proper mentorship program that enables them to run their businesses successfully.
To get an idea of how this project would most likely be received by its target market, we also spoke to some of the young stakeholders that had attended the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. First was 28-year-old Tsaone Pule, the owner of a 2-year-old panel beating and mechanics company called Pick and Drive that collects broken down vehicles and returns them in running order.
The product here, Bone, is going to be very useful to us, and as per that presentation, we are very, very happy. We believe for it.
24-year-old Muhumagadi Muruti, a writer for corporate publication Noble Magazine, also shared her 2 cents.
Well, my thoughts and feelings towards that is it's a wonderful initiative. It's a great initiative. It's going to help a lot of us youth people to move forward with a lot of things. I actually like the fact that it extends to athletes, and it's just not focused on youth entrepreneurs. It's focused on other people. But the only problem that I have with this is not a problem per se. It's just a suggestion or a question. Why is it that it's only focused on people that are youth businesses that are funded by MySEG instead of everyone else? I would be happier and more satisfied if that was the case. But otherwise, everything else, the way it's looking, the partnership itself is a new thing. It's a great one. It's quite interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything unfolds. And I really hope the youth takes this whole thing seriously and actually allows it to uplift them.
And 27-year-old Udubegile Kolagano, the owner of a 5-year-old ICT support and networking company, Subnet, that has managed to land projects with big names such as Bika and FedEx, also found there to be value in this partnership between FNB and MySEG.
I'm excited. This is a very good initiative. Botswana buletsa re swaragentsa pedi ga sethata. That means if 1 or 2 people are working together, they can achieve greater things. I'm so humbled. If we can have so many companies or parastatals coming together, doing something together, maybe our situation will change in Botswana.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion, help them find their true potential, help them stretch, help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. Last week we heard the touching personal stories of 3 former working professionals whose lives took a different trajectory because of the lifestyle illness that is diabetes. A study published this time last year in the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology that incorporates not only the direct costs of the disease, such as expenditures for insulin, testing strips and treatment, but also indirect costs representing production shortfalls due to illness and premature death, found that the world faces a substantial economic burden from diabetes, currently at $1.3 trillion. This evening, we contemplate what the economic burden could be for Botswana, a country that some say has twice the prevalence rate of diabetes than the continental average, and whose far-flung rural areas make effective service delivery a real challenge. Professor Kiran Bhagat, in estimating that cost, informs us that it is potentially staggering, given that this lifestyle illness, as we saw with the sufferers we spoke to last week, is one that is typically accompanied by a long list of other health conditions and complications.
The economic implications of diabetes are phenomenal. I mean, if we just take obesity, because obesity is the cornerstone of diabetics. And for those out there that are diabetic who don't look obese, they may be surprised. There are studies that show that you may look slim, but if we scan the inside of the abdomen, we find that there's fat in the abdominal tissues. So it's the fat inside that's beginning to be built up, and that's poisoning your system. The economic implications are vast. If we just take obesity, we know that the fatter you are, the heavier you are, the higher your body mass index, the higher the incidence of every single disease you can think of. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, dementia, arthritis, gout, you name, depression. And so obesity in itself, which is a complication or a presentation of diabetes itself, you can just imagine if you are overweight, your joints begin to ache. You take painkillers. Those painkillers cause side effects. They raise blood pressure. They block your kidneys. The ibuprofens, the diclofenac, the Grandpa, the Genpain. All these people use these products like sweeties to manage their pain. They all have problems. They all have complications. With obesity comes high cholesterol. With obesity comes high blood pressure. With diabetes comes a multiple fold of conditions in diabetics themselves. We talked about the sugar, and sugar, which is the cornerstone of poor control in diabetics, literally riddles your system. Blindness, stroke, dementia, like we say, heart attack, losing your limb, kidney failure, heart failure. So you can imagine how a diabetic, we know, for example, when a diabetic first presents to a doctor or to a clinic and the sugar is high, we used to write newly diagnosed diabetic, but we now understand from statistics in North America and Europe that by the time the sugar is high, diabetes has been in your system for at least 15 years. So it has been 15 years approximately where the sugar has been high and has been going through your system, through every single organ, wreaking havoc. And if we do the test, which we're able to do even in Botswana, we begin to see that by the time we detect the sugar, there are already complications that have arisen. So we are trying to impress upon our government as well as policy advisors that we need to take charge from childhood, that it should transcend the issue of the patient coming in. We should actually be telling the parents of the diabetic, be careful, because this is what's ahead of you if you're not careful.
What future can we anticipate with the rise of diabetes?
Well, I think very much like I'm a very keen supporter and fan of Michelle Obama. And what she did is what we should be doing. We have, our country is famous for having an alcohol tax. We should be taxing fat. We should be taxing beverages. The biggest cause of rise in sugar and obesity amongst our young children is the consumption of fizzy drinks. Any fizzy drink on the market is toxic. A can of Coke is between 8 and 9 teaspoons of sugar. A can of Fanta, a can of Sprite, a can of Iron Brew, they're all poisons. Fruit juices are poison. The industry has got away by saying that it's 100% fruit or 100% juice, but it's 100% fructose. Fructose is a cousin to glucose, which is sugar. And so it's just as poisonous. So people have been hoodwinked into thinking by the food industry that what they're consuming is healthy. These smoothies that people buy over the market or produce at home, they're poisoning themselves. It should be drinking if you really have to liquidize the vegetables that you're eating, have a vegetable smoothie. I'd rather you eat the vegetable, but if you have to blend it, then do it with vegetables rather than fruits. So for me, the answer lies not in the patient. For me, the answer lies in transcending the patient and going to the public and going to the corporate industry, corporate responsibility in terms of telling the food industry, one, food labeling. We're very poor at food labeling in this country. Two, to educate our public as to what is written on that label. Because often we know that the food industry gets away with it by writing very complicated words on the packet, so that the poor person who reads this thing cannot even pronounce the names of the things that are in there. The food industry knows this. So if you saw polydextrose maltose, you wouldn't know what it is. But it's another way of saying sugar. And so it's that. It's the removal of processed foods from our children's diet. It's the removal of the fizzy drinks from the tuck shops and these simausus. It's the removal of sugar in virtually everything that children are eating. In the pizza, in the pasta, in some of these fast food takeaways, the amount of sugar that is in there is horrific. So people think, we were talking about the cereals. If people think that if they're eating bran, or if they're eating cornflakes, or if they're eating muesli, or if they're eating oats, they're doing themselves a good favor. Because industry has fed it that they're eating high fiber. Yes, there's a lot of fiber, but you're paying a price because in that fiber is a large quantity of sugar. So we need to educate our public because prevention is better than cure.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
It is time for Business Basics. Despite their increasingly valuable role within the economy, SMEs remain significantly high risk. Therefore, it is increasingly important to have a good plan, one that shows the viability and sustainability of your business idea to secure that all-important financing. When putting down your business idea on paper, complete with a thorough assessment of the market, an analysis of your competitors, as well as a winning strategy to set yourself apart, many entrepreneurs grow cautious at the idea of sharing this valuable information with a third party. The questions: how much should you really give away when presenting your plan? And what are the risks of someone stealing your well-researched and planned out business idea are answered tonight.
That's actually a very common fear right across. But if you don't share your full plan, you misrepresent your idea. And the few details that you are keeping to yourself might be the very few details that you needed to get funding coming through. But I just need to say that, you know what, anytime, gone are the days of where people used to invent things. I won't say, as long as the moment you find yourself thinking of one thing, an idea, just know that 1,000 other people are thinking of that. The difference would be how you actually put it on paper, how you plan, how you execute it. There are many people who run taxi businesses, but there are few that are made that are way above everyone else in terms of, and it's just a matter of application management. So the idea on its own is worthless. And again, if you keep it to yourself, it doesn't help you. So you rather take the risk and share. But I must say that there's professionalism in the banks. There's actually ethics there. There's a confidentiality. We sign, and anyone who's working in this institution have to sign the confidentiality to say whatever we read, we can actually keep it within the institution. We will not share it with third parties that are not part of this unless so authorized by the people, the owners of the proponents of the applications. But I must say that I think we also have your KPMG, if you think there's something that is not going right, you can actually go and report that. But you better have facts, because these are just, I think in most instances, these are just fears that have got no ground. So I would say, don't waste time, don't reserve those, just put your business plan. And the truth is, no one can implement your business plan better than you. If I copy your idea, because it's never been my passion, I didn't give birth to that idea, I would never really implement it to the T like you would. So even if they go in there is failing. And if you come in and find resources elsewhere and you come and implement it, you're bound to do it better because it's your passion, it's in you, it lives in you. And again, there's actually what you call a document that is called NonDisclosure agreement. If you feel that there's certain information that you think if you disclose, you might compromise yourself, make all these people sign it to really say, I'm coming here, but before I have an idea to discuss with you, before we do so, can we kindly sign a non-disclosure agreement? So much that, and I have the opportunity to really say, if we are doing something, for example, say you come in and sell me an idea, and if you mention an idea, I'll say, so no, as a disclosure, as a business, we're also doing that. If you come to me and ask for that advice and say, I want to go into a tour operator, and you want me to advise you, I'll tell you that, kindly know that I'm also working on that, on a project similar to yours. So If you're comfortable to discuss it, okay. However, if you leave and something comes through this one, don't think it was, we took it from you. So you can actually decline to say, no, I'm comfortable because I'm also helping a client who's doing this, or I'm doing it myself. So that disclosure is important. But if I don't disclose, and later it appears that we went and did a project that is similar to yours, by that non-disclosure agreement, it's an enforceable agreement. You can come and really say, you really breached that agreement. You've taken my idea, you've implemented for your own good or for one of your customers. So I need a compensation.
Thank you for staying with us. As we conclude tonight's program, we address the #1 challenge entrepreneurs complain about, that is funding. Comparing some of the options available to those looking for startup capital.
There are various methods of business funding. Usually, these methods are correlated with the stage of growth that the company is going through. The most common one is to use your own savings or your own money. Sometimes you can also use the funding that you'd obtain from your family or your friends. Typically, you'd use this type of funding when the business idea has been conceived and it hasn't been tested. At the next stage, where the company or the business has been tested, feasibility has been established, the company is in operation and is potentially generating revenues and needs to avail the product to the customers or to expand the distribution network, the company might look to bigger sources of funding. This may be the banks, can apply for a bank loan, venture capital firms, private equity firms. You can also get funding from a development finance institution. Usually, this kind of funding comes with some level of compensation. For example, if you have obtained a bank loan to fund the business, the bank would require interest payments periodically. Sometimes you would give shareholding if it's equity that's been raised from a private equity firm, so that the company can participate in the profit potential of the company and also in the value that's been created by the funds. For further expansion, the company might find that it is not able to raise huge amounts of capital from traditional sources of finance, the banks, venture capital, private equity, and the likes, including their existing shareholders. In that case, the entrepreneur, the company, would look to the stock market to undertake an initial public offering. An initial public offering, or an IPO, is when a company avails its shares for the first time to the public, giving them shareholding, in return receiving capital from the public, so that the public can benefit from the dividend payments over time and also from the value that's been created by the directors of the company. Alternatively, such a company can come to the market, a public market, a stock exchange, and issue and list a bond. A bond is a debt instrument, and through a bond, the company will be able to obtain funding from the public, and over the duration of the bond, the company will be paying interest payments to the bondholders. At the end of the duration of the lending period, the company would return the money back to the public. So those are the three main sources of funding the business through different stages of growth.